Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flat Thunder channel. My name's Andy and this is a Toro Wheel Horse 520xi lawn and garden tractor. Customer complaint, she's getting hot. Too hot. Stick with us, we're going to tear into this thing and see if we can't figure out why this engine is overheating. It's a liquid cooled FD620D. Got our radiator here. This is a 22 horsepower Kawasaki engine. This engine's used in certain John Deere lawn and garden tractors and other various applications. I believe it's a really good engine, but this one is puking antifreeze out all over. At customer request, we purchased a new water pump, new thermostat, and all the various gaskets that we need to install those items. But I don't like to just throw parts at something. I want to figure out why it's overheating and try to find one of those smoking guns if you can. That way we know if we fix the problem or really if there's another problem still in there. So we got the parts on order. Right now, we're gonna put some water in this old girl and see if we can get it to demonstrate its problem and try to actually locate where the problem exists. Didn't warm up yet. That's cool. I just noticed the radiator's made in Plymouth, Indiana. It's kind of cool. I spilled a little bit. She's leaking out a whole lot faster than she should be. Maybe the drain valve's open. Yep, drain was just open. Try again. Fill up the overflow too, just so there's no question if it's got enough. Got a temperature gauge here and we'll start it up. And she's not even registering. Still below the yellow. Crank her up to full throttle, full load. Mow this lawn real quick. See how much she heats up and if she gets hot. There we go. I did notice something that was strange while we were mowing the lawn. If you watch the temperature gauge, if you were sitting still, it would slowly start to creep up. But as you started moving around and driving, it would move down rather quickly. That could just be some air bubbles in the system, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna try to show you what it's doing. Here we are, the key's off. We're about mid-range, just sitting still. I'm gonna fire her up. As of right now, I don't see a real smoking gun. I was mistaken. We just had to sit here and run at full throttle, and you could watch that temperature gauge just go all the way up to a certain point, and once it hit a certain point, it would come back down. And what I believe is happening there, that is just the thermostat opening. So it goes up till it hits that thermostat set point, and then it opens up, and then it cools it back down. Why it's such a dynamic thing, maybe there's some air in the system, or maybe that thermostat itself is just sticking. But so far I haven't seen any real signs of, hey, this thing's gonna overheat. I'll give it, granted, it's only in the 40s right now, so it's not necessarily 80 degrees out, but this thing is not overheating at this point. This thing is equipped with a screen on the radiator. You got some grass in there. We're gonna pull that out. We're gonna get in behind the shroud here and blow the radiator completely out. Well, there you have it. We spent a pretty good amount of time trying to blow out this radiator and all the cavity behind the radiator. What I found is I should have started by blowing in the side grates, because that kind of populated and forced the stuff out. But we ended up having to use a long poking stick, get down in there and knock up the piles that were kind of stuck in there, and then just blow it all out. There definitely was some stuff in there. I think that's one of the downfalls to this tractor setup. There's really no good way other than what we did to get in there to try to blow that out. This is a perfect example of why Andy needs a better blow gun. I've been toying with the idea of buying a new blow gun, one with a longer nozzle or one with a flexible nozzle. I'm not for sure what works best for a general application like I would use it. I have used ones with long, just homemade nozzles that you can flex and bend semi-rigid, like copper. I've seen ones with really long fixed nozzles. Drop down in the comment section, let me know what blowgun works best for you, and then I'll have to look into getting one. Definitely could have used a longer one in this situation. I don't know if a flexible one, probably a flexible one may have worked best here. We got that all blowed out. We know that the radiator isn't restricted, and that's not going to cause us any problems. I think we're just going to run it a little more and see if she gets hot. All right, we found that smoking gun. If you didn't notice, there was a stream of water in between, I believe, the water pump cover to engine interface. We're gonna have to make sure we got that right gasket coming, or check the gasket when we get it. But basically it looks like we just got a blowout in the gasket, and she was shooting right out there. So once that all the antifreeze gets depleted, or the antifreeze gets low, she's gonna get hot. Yeah. So we need to replace that. If you didn't see it, it was a stream coming out right there, shooting right on that exhaust. So you're gonna have to get in there and replace that cover gasket right there. Hey, we found the smoking gun. The water pump housing, or the interface behind the water pump housing where it connects to the head has a nice little stream of, in this case, water, but normally it would be coolant, just shooting out and landing right on that exhaust manifold. So that's obviously the source of our main problem on this tractor. It probably pumps out all the coolant and then until it can't cool itself anymore, and then just goes right over the top and boils over. So what we need to do is get our new gasket, tear that all apart, clean that surface back up. Hopefully it'll seal and it's not warped, and get her back together and test her again. Oh yeah, I always love it when I find the smoking gun, because now I know we can fix this with a certain level of confidence and it's not going to come back with the same issue. It's going to make me happy that I fixed it, I know what's wrong with it, save the customer some parts, and they're going to be happy that I can tell them definitely this was your problem. It's shooting a stream of coolant out right behind the water pump casing, boiling it off on the exhaust or dripping it out on the ground until she doesn't have enough coolant in her, and then just boiling right on over. Oh yeah, just need to get that new gasket, tear it apart, put it back together. Got some genuine Kawasaki parts. This guy here, this is our water pump. I already took the plastic off of it. It's got some really nice machine finishes on the surfaces. This is plastic gearing and then a completely plastic impeller. But just look at the surface finish on these surfaces here. That's just almost mirror quality, beautiful finish. Looks like to be a quality part. Here's the part number. Pause so you can read it. That's the water pump. Then we have the thermostat here. Pause for part number. This is also in a plastic bag. I removed it already. I didn't look at this I looked at this previously, and I don't really know of or have worked on very many that are offset like this. This is an offset where the actual thermostat valve is offset from the flange. It's kind of strange. Didn't know it was that way. It says 82 degrees Celsius on the set point. Then we have a water pump gasket. Pause for part number. A second water pump gasket. I think this is the one that's damaged on our tractor. A thermostat housing gasket, and then two exhaust manifold gaskets, basically just a flange. Let's get all this on the tractor. So I don't know how much you got from the diagnostic video or how much I'm going to include in this video. Basically, the source of our problem is right here at the water pump housing to the main engine block. There's a stream of water that shoots out of there because of a damaged gasket. I think it blew out from overheating. Hopefully the surface isn't warped and there's not a bigger problem there. But unfortunately the water pump and the water pump housing that we need to get at is right behind this big exhaust can. So we need to take that exhaust off. That's why we got the flange gaskets for the exhaust. And then the thermostat is right back here on the back side of the engine. So we got to get up here, tear a bunch of stuff apart. We got to get back here and tear a bunch of stuff apart. So let's just get after it and start ripping and tearing. So on this job, I tried to estimate before we started tearing stuff apart. We have a screwdriver, a 10mm ratchet wrench, 1/4 inch drive ratchet with 10mm socket and a short extension. I'm going to try to use all these tools to do the major disassembly and see where we get. We're definitely going to need a gasket scraper and something to clean the surfaces, but these should be hopefully all the tools we need to disassemble this and reassemble. Here goes a 10mm. I don't know if you can see it real clear, but there's some stuff down here, and that actually is holding the heat shield and I think the exhaust can itself. We got this big guard here that's bolted I believe down there. So I don't know. What I'm going to try to do is remove the bolts on that, or the nuts on that side, and try to shove the exhaust can forward without having to take all this heat shield and stuff off. But we may have to remove that. Definitely have to remove that to get the can all the way off. Okay. Unfortunately, that is rock solid. I don't know what I was thinking. It's clamped solid down there, so we're gonna have to remove all this. 4 bolts here, 1/2-inch hex, that hold this heat shield to a larger support structure under there. There's a larger, beefier bracket under here, but there's something with this clutch that almost feels spring-loaded into it. This guy right here. So I thought I could just take those 2 bolts out, but now with that spring lever in there, I think this is some type of special spring lever for the clutch, and that's wound tight with those bolts and that bracket. So I don't want to be going and taking that off. We're just going to take these 4 bolts off, 1/2-inch hex, and try to pop this cover off. I'm going to reach through the vent holes in the front for the front one. I can't get those bolts out of the inside to the bracket underneath because the head of the bolts are actually hitting the exhaust can. So I think we're gonna have to try to get in here and somehow get these bolts out, which they conveniently place that one directly behind the water pump, which I really don't know how you're gonna get that out of there. And try to take off not these brackets, that's the clutch bracket, but the ones behind it, which I don't think that's physically possible with this. So I just don't know. Looks like we're gonna get stuck taking these big bolts out. We're just gonna have to deal with whatever happens on that clutch. Okay, so that moves, it's not spring loaded, so that's okay. So this cover should just come out of here now. It's supposed to come off as one piece with this. So now we got some bolts down here underneath the exhaust can. I'll show you, get those off and the whole exhaust should come off. Got these 2 bolts here that hold a bracket to support the exhaust can and the heat shield. Another tool I didn't think we need, 13mm. Well, alright, she's out of there. So now we can freely access the water pump and get in here and start switching all this out. Here's the actual, at least I hope that's the right one. I don't even know what I'm looking at really, but we got a couple sandwiches of stuff here. We definitely got to get off. Here's a water hose, we just got to get in there. Okay, I need a bigger socket there. 13 looks like. It was 12. The outer housing, this is the cover that the inlet goes on. There's your water pump impeller. old water pump. Nothing really seems bad here. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. So hopefully we got the gasket to go behind here. I don't know if we did. If we didn't, we're kind of in trouble. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. Just to be clear, it's actually leaking from this area right here, which I thought this is a separate piece, and unfortunately this piece is all an integral part of this whole front cover, which I believe has the main bearing for the engine. If you look in here closer, this flexed enough for the exhaust to be blowing out the bottom. So the exhaust is leaking on this side. Obviously that gasket was leaking, so a whole bunch of not good stuff going on here, and it's going to make for a much more complicated disassembly and repair than just a water pump and thermostat. Wah, wah, wah. Unfortunately, I just found out, or just realized, that the water pump wasn't really where it was leaking at all. It was actually leaking from the front cover of the engine, which I'm going to call the timing cover. It may be an incorrect terminology for this engine, but in general the front cover is the timing cover, and that's not really good. Just vaguely looking at it here, you know, bird's eye view, have to completely disassemble the front of the engine. I think that front timing cover has the main bearing for the engine in it. It has the clutch. Basically have to split the entire engine to replace that gasket. But what's worse yet is it warped enough from when they overheated it for it to damage that gasket. So that's concerning. So what we're gonna have to do now is get back with the customer, let them know what's happening, and see what they want to do. Little concern, there could be, you know, other damage in there. The exhaust gasket on this side flexed so much that the exhaust was leaking. The other side doesn't appear to be leaking, but this side obviously flexed enough to blow that gasket out on the water pump. So yeah, we're gonna have to get back with them, see what they want to do, see if they want to invest the money into tearing this all completely apart, or if they want to choose to do something different. Yeah, definitely more than what we originally expected.